The incompetence of California is on full display as every single level of the leadership that is supposed to protect people has failed in the fires. Today we'll tell you why we never tire of pointing out that there are people who need to be in charge who simply are not, and who could fix not only the government, the media, but the entertainment industry. We'll break it down. Folks, here we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we as ever endeavor to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve, and we do so, folks, with a joy that comes from the deep satisfaction in knowing we're trying to put this world in a better position. Folks, as we get ready to dive into today's topic, consider clicking the like button, and I will preface this by saying that when it comes to the fires and the loss of property and everything to do with that, we have tremendous sympathy. And we are grieved to know that people are grieving. We never take that for granted, not for a second. And we recommend that every person out there remember, you should take no joy in the suffering of other human beings ever, ever, ever. And with that, let's, as ever, dive into the topic. All right, folks, the incompetence of California is on complete and utter display. And we're not trying to be mean in any way to Californians. We need to separate this out. Everybody out there needs to understand that as we are negativo about the people in charge and the entertainment industry and the people who seem to be intertwined in all of this, we are not talking about the average residents of California. Now, is it true that Californians have selected people in charge of them who have done a very poor job? Well, to some degree. But also, to some degree, you have to remember that California became a one-party state. And while we're not political, we have to state this forthrightly. Once California became a one-party state, it strongly appears that California also became a state where the most lax laws exist for voting that we have ever seen, such that you would not find in basically any other country out there. And if they were in other countries, we would declare that they were banana republics. And so it is questionable at this point just exactly how much representation the people of California have. But one thing that's not questionable is the people running the state, they're jokes. They're flat out jokes. And we don't want this to happen anymore. So the reason we're going to cover this the way we're going to cover it today is because we're angry. We're angry because we don't like suffering. We don't care if the person suffering is someone who agrees with us or disagrees with us. When there is suffering, we don't like it. And we really don't like it when it is unnecessary suffering. And to a large degree, some of this could have been avoided. And it happens over and over, and we want it to stop. We want people to be able to live their lives. We don't want historic buildings and residences and neighborhoods. We don't want historic districts to be burned to the ground by incompetence. No more. Let's go to it first, folks. This is from Cernovich, who I know Cernovich often has very hot takes, and some people like Cernovich, some people don't. We'll hold our opinion on it and leave it a mystery. But Cernovich says this makeup-wearing mofo used clothespins to pull in the fire jacket he's wearing as a prop so he would look snacky. I'm going to assume that was snappy.
Nope, it's snacky. It's snacky.
It's snacky.
All right, well, let's just pause it right there. Can we get a pause right there? Right there. Anybody want to read for me who that is? We'll full screen it, folks. Anybody want to read for me who that is?
That's David Muir. That's the guy who did the ABC debate. He was the moderator that was debating Trump. Well, that was the Kamala Harris one, right? Right.
Yeah.
He's number one guy.
Balls at Kamala. Yeah.
Disney's number one guy.
Davis, I believe.
So somebody explain to me, why is it that we're making fun of this guy? Just a cursory report. Why is it that he deserves to be mocked?
Is it because he's a mimbo?
Yeah. There.
A himbo.
There you go.
So,
I'm sorry. I looked at this, and I don't like to make fun of people and their appearance and their vanity online. But come on, you're in the middle of a trap. This is classic, like, villainous behavior. The guy shows up and he's like, oh, this jacket doesn't fit me right. Here, we need that tailored look on this disaster relief jacket that he's also wearing as a prop.
It looks like
It looks like
because so many wine moms are glued to the TV watching coverage of the California wildfires just to oogle this guy's body, right?
Oh, that David Mayer's on. We got to make sure we're all made up during the fire just in case he comes to report on us.
Yeah, that's true. But again, I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, turnout coats, if you're a fire services person, they are not form-fitting, kids. These are big, bulky things that come in like very few sizes, and you just slap it on your body so you don't burn up if you're actually near a fire.
Well, this is one of those situations where it speaks to what matters to these people. You are reporting on the destruction of everything around you. Somebody has given you a safety jacket that probably is unnecessary. You're probably only wearing it for the optics of the report.
Yep.
And then that wasn't enough either. You had to safety pin it in the back. You had to clothes pin it in the back because, Jonas, what was the phrase you used? Fashion designer...
Himbo?
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. We don't want to stay on David Muir for too long because the incompetence runs throughout. But I just want you to understand, there is incompetence at every level. There's incompetence in the entertainment industry, who basically it's Disney and they run ABC News. There's incompetency in the news reporting. There's incompetency in the leadership. And they're all one and the same. They're all incestuously interlinked, like this giant spaghetti blob that you can't pull apart. You can't figure out where the fettuccine of fail stops and where it starts. It's just one giant mass of yuck. And let me show you, okay? Take a look at this. Moving on, folks. Moving right along. Da-da-da. Breaking from 9/11. Well, 911. Breaking 911. Can't make this up. The City of Angels mayor, Karen Bass. Is it Bass or is it Base? It's definitely not based. Is going all Joe Biden, not knowing what she's saying. They didn't write the web address in her script, which she apparently can't read. So she told everybody where to get help from. And it says, fire this unintelligent person. Now, let's play it, folks. And as we play this, I want everybody to think about it. I assume, want the most intelligent people we can get to be in charge of leadership. I want you to think in your seat where you are, or in your vehicle, or wherever if you're preparing lunch for the kiddos, whatever you're doing right now, would you have been so dumb as to have said what she says? Here we go.
Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL.
What?
Those who don't know, somebody forgot to put the URL in there. And so she just said URL.
It's like Kevin Sorbo doing the disappointed.
Repeat line.
Yeah, repeat line. Wait
Pause for dramatic effect.
Let's listen one more time. These are the people who they know how to get the water to the fires. They're the ones who are supposed to be so smart, so grand, so great that they deserve to be where they are.
And she
right
thinks
now, if you
URL is a 3-letter agency. She doesn't even know. You could tell her that URL is the agency in charge of taking care of the wildfires in California. And it sounds like she would believe it, because I don't think she has anything to do with the actual counting of money for these budgets.
I feel safer. I feel safe for everybody in LA knowing that this woman who doesn't know what a URL is and will just read it out loud.
Earl.
Earl. We're lucky she didn't say that. For more help, go to Earl. Who's Earl? Where's Earl? We need Earl.
Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL.
Well,
Los Angeles together is how we will get through this.
And that is the dumbest. That is the. What? Who says together we will get through this? What other option do you have?
Well, can they get through it with less than? Can they do it with a reduction of $17.6 million, Pro?
Was there ever a point in any catastrophe in the history of humanity where somebody said, we will get through this without each other?
Yes.
It is the most asinine thing you could say. It is literally stupid. And you know what it's like? It's like somebody who you were on a beautiful boat and the weather was great and everything was good, and some idiot whose one good eye was aimed at the bottom of the boat, and they drilled a hole in the boat on purpose. And then as the boat is sinking, because they're stupid, because they're just stupid, they're the one who has they are the culprit behind the sinking boat, and they look at you and say, "We'll get through it together." That's the feeling, right?
Well,
I am glad that she was fast-tracked from Africa, where she was at when the fires initially broke out, back to LA to offer such sage advice. I'm very glad.
Wait.
She's returned here.
Why was she in Africa, Bash?
She was attending, I believe, the inauguration of the president of Ghana, if I'm not mistaken.
At a time when it had already been warned that this could get bad. She went anyway. Culture, let's take a look at this. This is, it keeps getting worse. Here we go. This is from A.G. Hamilton, 29. Brutal video. And we won't read it because, well, we want you to hear it. Here we go first. Folks, here's what was happening on the local news as they tried to defend the oligarchy, the hegemonious rulers who you cannot speak out against, must protect at all costs. Here we go.
Former LA mayoral candidate and real estate developer Rick Caruso criticizing the city's response to the windstorm and fires. He says officials should have been more prepared.
To me is twofold. We've had decades to go remove the brush in these hills that spreads so quickly. And the second is you got to have water. And my understanding is the reservoir was not refilled in time and in a timely manner to keep the hydrants going. So that's a failure, whether on DWP's part or another city agency. But this is basic stuff. This isn't high science here. And it's all about leadership and management that we're seeing a failure of. And all of these residents are paying the ultimate price for that.
Despite what you have heard from Caruso, no firefighters have told us that they are running out of water.
And let's go out to Gigi Graciette. She is live in Pacific Palisades. I know your signal's not the best, but Gigi, what can you tell us?
Well, firefighters have told me they have no water on this block, and you may be able to make out the ember storm that we're in the middle of right now. This house is going to be a total loss. They have no water to put on this fire. They are standing by because they're trying to stave.
All right, folks, let me show you how that happened. Because this is one of those rare opportunities where we get to see behind the veil of the absolute corrupt news media, the legacy dinosaurs who are going extinct. And all of this, by the way, you got to wonder, like, how many companies, how many people are done now with Los Angeles? We'll talk about that in just a minute, but I'm going to show you the point where the veil was torn, okay? Pay close attention to this. This is going to show you how this major mistake could happen, where they were supposed to be defending the oligarchs, right? The Democrat parties that be. You can't, in the one-party state of California, you can't criticize them. And that's why investigations are unlikely to occur unless they come from the federal government, because Newsom doesn't want to get Bass in trouble, Bass doesn't want to get Newsom in trouble, and everywhere in every direction away from that, same thing. Here's where the veil was accidentally pulled back. Here we go.
And let's go out to Gigi Graciette. She is live in Pacific Palisades. I know your signal's not the best, but...
Did you hear that? I know your signal is not the best. Now, why does that matter? She likely was unable to hear that she had just been told that no firefighters were saying there's no water. She didn't get the cue. So she goes into this cold. She has no idea the context. So she literally just reports what she's hearing and seeing. By the way, she does this almost certainly on a Starlink from Elon Musk. You gotta love the irony.
Poetry of it.
Let me give you a chance to weigh in on all of this. And as you do, one of the topics of discussion I'd like to aim for here is, I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of residents, maybe even celebrities, a lot of companies who say, listen, our city is on fire. There's no water. We had record rainfall. There's no water. You're not pumping water to the hydrants. We're done. We're leaving. Like this is the apocalypse. You have turned our city into a hellscape through your anti-meritocracy, and we're leaving. Panel, what say you?
No, I think you're right. And I'm going to tell you right now that lady, whether ill-prepared or not, told the truth, and that's something that's in short supply and has been for a very long time. Being able to come back and say, hey, you know what, the emperor has no clothes and we have no water up here, that's probably what I would consider a virtue in news reporting. And the fact that they did not retain any of the water from the historic rains, and that they've reduced the reservoir, and that they've, for whatever bologna sausage ecological reasons, drained a lot of water resources from outside of the Los Angeles area that they used to be able to rely on or reach into to do things like fill hydrants, which people would often say, well, why can't you've got a giant ocean there, why can't you pump water up to the hydrants? Well, because salt water will destroy the plumbing that actually makes it so hydrants exist. Metal will be corroded by salt water, so you absolutely would not want to do that. They also have record storms and things like that that flow to the canals that you've seen in games like GTA 5. That's absolutely true. There's giant canal systems and ways to move water, ways to retain water that they have not done for a long, long time. So praise be to this reporter for telling the truth. But this is just one of the many ways in which California, but specifically Los Angeles at this point in time, has been ill prepared because they have very poor leadership. Now, we've lost over 2,000 structures because of this fire. We've lost historic locations. We've lost a lot of things, all because of the ineptitude, as Caruso described, of not taking care of this with an ounce of prevention. Now you have to have a pound of cure.
So the question, though, Culture, is, given what we're witnessing, and given that this is essentially, it's always been the throne of entertainment. This is, these hills that we're talking about, these are the places that in the past were used to create great entertainment that brought the world together and disseminated American values across the planet.
Yes.
They're being burned down to the ground now in an unnecessary way. So, Culture, I come back to you with a follow-up of, do you think this is the turning point? Is this the tipping point where either the government and the loonies who run the government are held accountable, or do you think that people are just going to leave? Like, it can't get worse. Surely it can't get worse. I mean, maybe a kaiju is going to drop out of the Pacific and start attacking Los Angeles. But other than that, we've hit rock bottom. We're at the threshold of hell, according to Clark.
Look, as optimistic as I am, and if you know me, I'm often very optimistic on things. In this particular situation, I think it's a good first step. I think it might be eye-opening, but I don't think it necessarily changes the political leanings of the people that live in the area that they just voted themselves into this disaster over the course of the last 40 to 50 years. I think that there's been moments where there's been reprieves in the state of California and things got better, which only, made this more inevitable because, it wasn't enough time to do things. But I will tell you that I think that people are more likely to continue to leave. The upside of California is gone. The only thing left is what normally is a beautiful climate. As somebody who's had the privilege of, spending oodles amount of time, years, basically the equivalent of many, many years.
And it took one generation, Culture.
Yeah.
It took one generation to go from, folks remember the songs of 2 decades ago, right? Beverly Hills, that's where you want to be. Okay. Remember?
Yeah, I remember that, haven't they?
Yeah, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Remember the songs, folks? Nobody's singing about California now unless it's awful. Everybody wants to leave. They destroyed it in one generation. That's the power of DE. Why do you think we fight every day? We come on this channel every day and we fight against wokeism. We fight against the mind virus. We fight against postmodern neo-Marxism because it destroys an entire state in one generation. Keep it out of our companies.
You look at even the beautiful parts of Los Angeles, California, Hollywood. But I've been told, you turn a corner and all of a sudden it's tent city. It's homeless people as far as the eye can see, just people being displaced because they can't afford to live in that godforsaken state anymore. No one can afford to live. No one can start a business. It's absolutely insane. Sorry, Vash.
No. Well, and then this problem is only going to get worse when you have over 1,000 homes and structures actually burnt in just the Palisades fire alone, not counting all the other fires that are in the surrounding areas. you're talking about demand for homes is going to go up, and there's going to be, some people maybe can afford to rebuild. I'm sure the celebrities along the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu maybe can afford to rebuild, but even those homes are what? Average price is probably $14 million. That's going to be a stretch right there. Then you have obviously insurance companies dropping coverage just weeks before many of these homes had burned to the ground right there. So how many of these people now displaced? I believe 100,000 were given evacuation orders. How many of these people are going to actually be able to rebuild their homes at all, especially in the regulatory environment that exists in California? Again, as Culture was pointing out, fresh water is absolutely needed for these hydrants, and California did actually pass a water bond back in 2014, Proposition 1, that set aside $7.5 billion in water bond fund to build new storage facilities. I believe $2.7 billion worth of storage facilities. Not a single storage facility had actually been built. And again, that was back in 2014. So California knew that this was a problem. They knew that this was an issue, and yet they've done nothing about it for, 8 years ever since that was passed. And now we're in a really dire situation here.
Right. Well, we've managed to drain Lake Mead down to just about nothing, and yet we don't have water to put on fires.
There's one that I want to bring up because, I wanted to talk about it anyways. Bucky Cat for $10. Just wait till they try and get permits to rebuild. Adam Carolla talked about this on the latest podcast. They won't be allowed to rebuild, or they'll be put through a torturous, lengthy process.
It could take years for that permit process to actually take place.
Now, hang on a minute. Right now, they'll make it they will prevent you at all costs. Look at what happened in Lahaina. Not to, conflate the two issues.
Fair point.
But there's ridiculousness going on there. And again, it's the same kind of government, the same kind of people operating the government, and the same fools that unfortunately got voted for that can't find, solid ground with both hands. I was going to say something different, but I cleaned it up.
Now, the point that Carolla made, which was really prescient here,
Caruso.
No, Adam Carolla.
Oh, Adam Carolla. Okay, sorry.
I
misunderstood.
No, Caruso, of course. I think that Caruso might, if he runs again, he probably he'll
get elected.
Just bumped up in the polls there. The point that Adam Carolla made was he called it the 6 lesbians that run the permitting agencies there in or whatever number of it there was there. The bureaucratic red tape in California is so large in the number of people that will need to rebuild, and for this disaster to be caused by bad bureaucratic Democratic policies, because the state is completely captured by the Democrat Party, and for then all of those people who are already enraged at that to be faced with this wall of apathetic, petty tyranny from this bureaucratic state, that might have the chance of actually turning the state red, or at least purple, in the coming years. That is the one that I'm very interested in seeing how that all turns out. And I wish people who are rebuilding all the success and all the clarity. Maybe pick up some books by Thomas Sowell as you are waiting for your permits to be approved.
So I want to show you something real quick to give people who aren't familiar with the terrain here and what we're talking about. There was a fire that started yesterday evening around the Hollywood
Sunset
Hills.
Fire. The Sunset Fire by the Hollywood Bowl. Yeah.
Yes. So what I want to show people is, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, one of the levels of incompetence that allows this to happen is, as you look at the terrain here of that area, just understand what they need to do to prevent this from happening is, in these hills, they're very dry. There's little rainfall, but there's lots of trees, and there's lots of brush. What's been told to them now for decades or more is you have to go in there and take out the kindling, the firewood. There's literally just firewood laying on the ground because you have dry branches, twigs, grasses, all kinds of dead plants, and you just need to go in there and clean it out. Like, it needs to be part of the city services to go clean out this stuff that's a tinderbox. And they don't do it. They won't do it.
They've also rejected 2 different giant cisterns that are supposed to be placed on top of those hills.
Right. So when we say that our goal is to stop the suffering, we mean it. We just want this. We don't want people to suffer. And we can diminish the suffering, and we can say, well, it's limited to rich people, which I don't think it is. We can say, well, this is a, it's not fully impacting the entire city. It's just a small portion of the city. It's like, listen, if thousands of people are being evacuated by fire that's unnecessary, why would we want that to happen again? And by the way, we'll have stories on this later on, but it is impacting entertainment significantly. Jimmy Kimmel has been canceled. We'll be talking about that. You've got the Oscars are, at least the nomination announcements have been delayed now. You've had theme parks being closed. You've got tons of entertainment impacts happening. Well, and those are economic effects cascading through this.
Television shows are interrupted. Fallout season 2, Hacks. I mean, we could go through the entire list of things that have been canceled. They pushed back the nominations for the Oscars by 2 days and extended voting by 2 days because of this. There's a lot of impacts here, financial as well. I think that we're going to be looking at the 19th before we see the Oscar nominations and other things like that. Yeah. So it's
there's one thing I wanted to bring up here. I'm sorry, I know there's a lot to talk about on this, but forgive me for interrupting here. But Latino Slant here, our LA fire chief is doing a great job. Awesome. I don't recall anybody here specifically intending to go after the LA fire chief. We're talking about the politicians.
Yeah, we haven't said a thing about the fire department. And by the way,
we're not intended to. We might have accidentally. That's all I'm saying here. So,
well, if it happened, I missed it. But I'll say this: in regards to the fire department, the firefighters, and all of that, there are some questionable issues with hiring that may be causing there to be a lack of ability.
Support personnel.
And correct. That's the way I wanted to say that. So cancel what I said and insert Vash's statement there. The thing that I would say is anybody out there, firefighters, civilians, volunteers, incoming fire departments from other places, anybody out there battling the fires to save people's property, they're heroes. Yep. Support them. And by the way, also I'm hearing and seeing reports of restaurants and locations with space in their parking that they're allowing the evacuees to come down and use those spaces. They're providing free meals. They're doing all those sorts of wonderful things. They're heroes as well. And we'll be announcing some support that we're going to try to generate through this channel in the coming days. We want to get a hold on exactly how big this is going to be. If the fires continue, if they're, we want them to get this under control. That will change, however, depending on how this plays out, it will change our response and what we do. So we'll let you know. It's on the docket. We'll take care of it.
Yes.
By the way, I'll tell you one solution to lots of problems. It's having this additional panelist on with us. He's an all-star, folks. If you've not seen him before, you're not going to forget him. He's Derek Anderson.
Hey,
what's going on, fellas? How's everybody doing today?
What's up?
Doing well.
Hey. You're in California, man. How are you doing?
Hanging in there.
All right. I hope that your people are okay out there. Your family.
Yeah. I'm in the Southern California area, but I'm about 20 miles away from the closest fire. Most of the fires are well north of me in Pasadena, Hollywood, and the Palisades. So it's a lot of smoke in the air. Those that have like breathing, concerns, asthma, things like that, are recommended to wear masks, stay indoors, that sort of thing. My son has some conditions, but he's farther enough away from the fires where it's not going to really affect him. This is devastation, man. I've never seen anything like this. There are friends of mine that their childhood homes are gone. They're the places where they went to grocery stores and, played at the parks, and schools, entire high schools are just gone completely. And it's just been a couple of days. It's not even this hasn't been going on for weeks and weeks. This is just this week. And, immediately you start thinking about, the people that have been affected the most by this, and, elderly people that have lived in homes for 60, 70 years, like my mother's home that she's had for over 60 years. And, I just think about that. Like, wow, what would you do after putting your life into something for 60 plus years? And then it's just gone, it's just completely gone.
It takes a long time to build up a home.
how do you deal with that? Some of you guys think about that. If you lived in a place for, your entire life, or your parents did, and now all of a sudden that place is gone and it's gone forever. It's devastating to think about. But
one of the psychological effects too, Derek, is, and if you've not lived in the vicinity of wildfires that are destroying, large areas, you might not be aware of this, but for miles and miles, it's a huge distance, you can smell it. You can smell, It smells like a campfire, and you walk out and it reminds you that people are losing their property, and it's a constant shadow that's over the land.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. I'm like I said, if I walk outside my door, I can literally smell the smoke. At the night of the fires, the first night that it kicked off, the 7th, my entire house was filled up with smoke, and that's just when it started, and then it's kind of dissipated since then. But it's bad, man. It's real bad out here.
So tragedy happens, folks. We know it. It's part of living. It's part of life. The snake gets in the garden, but incompetence is not an excuse to allow it to happen over and over and over. People need to be held accountable, and we'll do that to the best of our ability. Of course, we will stay in our lane, and our lane is covering entertainment. Los Angeles significantly impacts entertainment, so we'll cover it as best we can. And it is time to put a bow on it, for this one, folks, is a gift to everybody who wants to know exactly what's going on in the entertainment industry. And we are so joyful that you were there to receive it. We hope that you had a great time. An attitude of gratitude on this channel every single time you decide to spend time with us. As we get ready to say goodbye, we only ask a few simple things. Click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. And folks, as you get ready to head out that door, do you have a place on social media that you love to share this sort of thing? Hey, you can make this YouTube video sing by putting it out there for your friends, your family, and for those weirdos who just won't leave you alone. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.